During a recent trip to a driving range, I was reminded of all the most fundamental lessons involved in learning any new skill, and one that ultimately decides whether you'll be good or great at any task that requires a process. So let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk. I'll tell you what lesson that is and how to make that lesson work for you.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Think about the last time you learned a new and difficult process. You may not have known it then, but learning that process was the easy part. Implementing it, however, was almost always the hard part. It really comes down to one simple question. Do you want to marginally improve, or do you want to pour your heart and soul into succeeding? I find myself thinking about a crossroads many are faced with when learning the game of golf. Watch amateur golfers warming up or playing, and you'll see exactly what I mean. In a sense, you'll be looking at two types of golfers. One type of golfer is not very good at what he or she is doing. This person has been hitting the ball improperly for so long, they're actually good at hitting the ball badly. Now, let's assume there were lessons involved and perhaps a few of the ideas taught were partially adhered to. There's probably some practice too, but practice is not a lot of fun, so there wasn't much. There's also a nagging voice that said, "Come on, you're thinking about this too much. You're actually worse now than before you took those lessons. Grab a technique or two, learn it your way. Let's get back to getting the ball in the fairway." What had begun as a strict new way of doing things slowly became a distant memory with a stray idea or two done halfway. That particular person will continue to play the game at an amateur level, expecting more, changing little, and baffled by his or her lack of success. Now, the other type of golfer is very good at what he or she is doing. This success did not come by accident, nor through a series of shortcuts. Matter of fact, I can almost guarantee you that there were lessons involved, and more importantly, those lessons were strictly adhered to. There was practice, and a lot of it. There was also a nagging voice that tried to con that golfer away from his or her disciplined approach. "Come on, this is just too hard. You got the ball in the fairway before these lessons, and you played a decent game of golf. Not only that, you had fun." But that voice was shouted down by another voice that said something like this: "No, I'm going to master this, and that means I'm going to take a step back or two before I move forward." See, that golfer went from playing the game in a satisfactory manner to playing worse for a brief period, and then ultimately being able to play the game at a much higher level than he or she had ever imagined. That type of golfer is able to achieve a high level of success and enjoyment in playing the game of golf. The moral of the story is this: when you work at doing something incorrectly long enough, you can actually get good at doing it badly. But make no mistake about it, no matter how hard you work, your level of improvement will level off at a good and never get to great. Now, on the other hand, if you work at doing something correctly that is truly challenging, you will almost always get worse before you get better. However, the harder you work, the greater your improvement will be, and ultimately stronger level of skill you will achieve. However, the harder you work, the greater your improvement will be, and ultimately stronger level of skill you will achieve. You will be great. Now, when you want to perfect those challenging skills, you probably have to learn a new, well-organized process. There won't be much luck involved. It'll be a matter of hard work and discipline. Beware, however, of that voice that will tell you to go back to your old way of doing things. After all, you can get good at doing things badly.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.